The first thing people noticed about the house was the silence, not the peaceful kind, the heavy kind, the kind that sits on your chest like an unanswered question. In the highbrow streets of Lekki, Lagos, where generators hummed like background music and luxury cars glided past polished gates, Chief Tunde Adebayo's mansion stood like a monument to success. Tall white pillars, glass balconies, a fountain that never ran dry. But inside, something was already broken. Tunde Adebayo was a man who had built everything from nothing. Oil contracts, logistics, real estate. His name opened doors. People called him Chief, with both respect and calculation. And beside him, for 5 years, stood his wife, Amara. Amara was beauty, wrapped in quiet elegance. She didn't shout, didn't compete, didn't chase attention. At least, that's what everyone thought. But Tunde had a problem. He didn't trust love, not completely, not after everything he had seen. He had watched friends lose fortunes to women who smiled in public and schemed in private. He had seen marriages collapse the moment money slowed down. And somewhere deep inside him, a voice kept whispering, "What if she's only here because of what you have?" At first, he ignored it. Then he started testing her. Small things. He stopped buying expensive gifts. She didn't complain. He traveled for weeks. She called, checked in, sounded concerned. He pretended to lose a deal. She encouraged him. But still, the doubt remained. Because to Tunde, love wasn't proven in comfort. It was proven in hardship. One evening, after sitting alone in his study for hours, he made a decision that would change everything. "I want to know the truth," he said to himself. And the next day, he began his plan. It started with an accident, a staged one. A call came in. His driver panicked. "Madam, Olga has been in an accident." Amara rushed to the hospital, her heart pounding like a drum. When she got there, she found Tunde lying still, his head wrapped in bandages. Doctors spoke in hushed tones. There was head trauma. His eyesight has been affected. "Temporarily?" she asked, her voice trembling. The doctor hesitated. "We don't know yet." Amara's world tilted. Blind? Her husband, this strong, commanding man, reduced to darkness. She sat beside him, held his hand, and for the first time since their marriage began, she cried without restraint. And Tunde, lying there with his eyes closed, felt the warmth of her tears on his skin. For a moment, he almost stopped the lie. Almost. Weeks passed. Tunde returned home, but now as a blind man. The mansion changed. Curtains stayed open longer. Lights stayed on. Furniture was rearranged for easier movement. Amara became everything. She guided him to the bathroom. She fought him when he struggled. She read documents aloud. She cancelled social events. "Let them say whatever they want," she told her friend over the phone. "My husband needs me." At night, when she thought he was asleep, she would sit by the window, staring into nothing. Sometimes she cried. Sometimes she didn't. But slowly, something else began to grow. Something Tunde didn't expect. Fatigue. 3 months in, cracks began to show. It started subtly. Her voice lost some warmth. Her patience shortened. "Tunde, please, you have to try," she snapped one afternoon, when he struggled to walk unaided. "I am trying," he replied softly, but she sighed. A long, tired sigh. And that sound stayed with him. Then came the distance. She started going out more. "At least, let me breathe small," she said one evening. "I can't just stay in this house all day." He nodded. "Of course." But inside, something shifted. The house, once silent, began to feel empty, even when she was there. One evening, Tunde heard something he wasn't meant to hear. Amara was on the phone. I didn't sign up for this kind of life, she said, her voice low but sharp. I'm still young. Am I supposed to become a full-time nurse? Pause. No, he doesn't know anything. He can't even see. Another pause. I'm tired, Kioma. I'm really tired. Tunde sat still, his hands clenched, his chest tightened, because for the first time he wasn't hearing the woman he married. He was hearing the truth. But still, he continued the act, because now it wasn't just about testing her. It was about confirming his worst fear. Months passed, and then the breaking point came. It was a Sunday afternoon. The sun was bright, but inside the house, tension hung thick. Amara stood in front of him, her arms crossed. I can't do this anymore. The words landed like a hammer. Tunde stayed silent. I've tried, she continued. I really have. But this life is not the life I want. You mean me? He asked, quietly. She hesitated, then said it. Yes. Silence, heavy, crushing. You've changed everything, she said. I had plans, dreams. I didn't marry you to live like this. And if I never recover, he asked. She looked away. Then I can't stay. That was the moment. The exact moment everything broke. Not loudly, not violently, but completely. 2 weeks later, Amara left. No drama, no shouting, just a suitcase. And a goodbye that felt rehearsed. Take care of yourself, she said. And then she walked out of the mansion, out of his life, out of the illusion. The house returned to silence. But this time, it was different, because now there was no performance left. 3 days later, Tunde walked into his study, alone. He closed the door, and slowly, he opened his eyes. He wasn't blind. He had never been. The room came into focus. The desk, the shelves, the city beyond the glass. Everything was clear, except his heart. He sank into his chair and laughed. But it wasn't joy. It was the kind of laugh that comes when truth finally hits you harder than any lie ever could. I did this to myself, he whispered, because in trying to test love, he had destroyed it. Or maybe he had only revealed what was never truly there. Months passed. News spread quietly in elite circles. Did you hear? Chief Adebayo can see again. Apparently, it was a miracle. Or maybe something else. But Tunde didn't bother correcting anyone. He had learned something more valuable than reputation. One evening, he sat outside, watching the sunset bleed into the Lagos sky, and for the first time in a long time, he allowed himself to reflect. Not on Amara, but on himself. Here's what he realized. First, when you test people with deception, you don't just reveal their truth. You corrupt the relationship itself. Because love cannot grow in an environment of suspicion. It suffocates there. Second, not everyone who stays loves you, and not everyone who leaves hates you. Some people are simply not built for certain seasons of life. And that truth hurts, but it's real. Third, wealth attracts attention, but it does not guarantee loyalty. Money can build houses, but it cannot build hearts. And finally, if you are afraid of being loved for the wrong reasons, the answer is not to create traps. The answer is to build clarity, communication, and trust from the beginning. 1 year later, the mansion still stood, still beautiful, still admired, but different, because the man inside it had changed. And sometimes, late at night, when the silence returned, Tunde would sit alone and ask himself one question. Was it all a lie? Or did I just create the ending I was afraid of? No one ever answered. But deep down, he already knew Because the greatest tragedy wasn't that his wife left. It was that he never truly gave love a fair chance to begin with.